Welcome to Monday, November 14th, 2022, your Day Weather Podcast, brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com for the most original Wyoming news information in the Cowboy State. Also brought to you by Chugwater Chili. Go to chugwaterchili.com and try out their awesome green chili seasoning. It's awesome. It's great. If you love green chili, you really need to try it out. Go to chugwaterchili.com and use chugwaterdon at checkout for 20% off. That's right, folks. The Great White North is paying a visit. This is not the first time I'm going to show you this slide this winter, trust me, as those two hosers sending a lot of cold air in from the north. Basically, we mentioned last week that the door was going to open and not close for a while. Canadian air is going to literally go coast to coast. This is something that doesn't happen very often where it covers all of the lower 48, but it will before the week is over. So this is going to be December weather here in November. We're going to see occasional snow showers and flurries this week. This is especially true for Montana and northern Wyoming, but also for the western Dakotas, parts of western Nebraska, maybe a little bit into Colorado. This is not a pattern that produces heavy snow, as the air out of Canada just isn't very moist. Cold air will be the coldest at the end of the week. The Thursday, Friday timeframe is when we'll probably see a few areas go below zero and some daytime temperatures not even get to the 20s. Now, Sunday, we will begin to see temperatures moderate some. Also, climate model fail. I want to show you how careful you've got to be in long-range forecasting with computer modeling. And this month of November is a great example. And I'll show you where things kind of fell off the wheels. The wheels kind of fell off in some of the long-range modeling. Beautiful shot there out of Wheatland. And then this is what it looks like this morning at the Wyoming High Country Lodge in the northern Bighorn Mountains as that Arctic air pushing in, creating snow up in the northern Bighorns. These Arctic pushes that come in from the northwest really bring snow to the Montana mountains and Wyoming's northern mountains in particular. The Bighorns in a northwest wind aloft will just tend to get a really snowy pattern. And you can see here on the satellite loop, I just want to show you the movement of the clouds here all the way up north is pushing all the way south. So this is just the cold air pouring on in as high pressure is developing off the west coast, allowing that door to swing open. And there it is. The flow of air just has easy access into the United States. This little guy right here, this little low producing some snow over New Mexico. Some of you watching college football over the weekend saw many areas getting snow showers and a little bit of light snow. Well, this cold air is going to overspread a lot of the nation, especially by the end of the week. This is Thursday. Look at this big high going all the way up into Alaska and displacing that cold air south across the entire United States, even into the west coast. The winds aloft are from the north. So this is going to allow that cold air to slip in to the Gulf Coast, to the East Coast, New England, and the Great Lakes, as that cold air is coming all the way up from the north slope of Alaska, taking a track south, and then taking a track that pushes it east. The properties of cold air, the colder the air is, the more densely packed the air molecules are, so it becomes a more dense air mass. I like to use the analogy of molasses. Arctic air is thick, it's dense, and it kind of acts like a plow because it's heavier and dense, it goes to the ground, and then it is able, because of its air density and the cold air, it moves other things out of the place. So once you get a cold air mass started, and you get it moving, it's going to kind of take over. And that's what's going to happen. These are the temperature anomalies by Thursday afternoon. So other than the anomaly up here, which you would expect in this pattern as you displace the air from there to here, look at the lower 48, look at most of Canada. That's pretty darn cold coast to coast. This is the forecast over the next week. So there's nowhere to go. You're not going to go get warm in Orlando. You're not going to go get warm in Los Angeles. You're not going to go to San Antonio or Houston or Dallas to get warm. If you want warm, you got to go up there, but that's still very, very cold, even though it shows red up there. And if you look at the precipitation chances, we said you're not going to get a lot of precipitation in this pattern. You're not, but there's going to be some. I had mentioned that this pattern is good for Montana and Wyoming's northern mountains to get snow, and you can see that heavier precipitation there. But these lighter snows are going to be enough to keep roads and highways slick. So you can see no one's getting really clobbered, but there will be snow getting all the way down into the southern plains, and this is going to be the first snow from many areas in the Midwest, getting into the Appalachians and the northeastern United States as that cold air overspreads. The snowpack has really gotten off to a good start. Early season snowpack is like late season snowpack. You have to take it with a grain of salt because early in the season and late in the season, you can get some really high or low numbers. But you can see the dark blue there is anything above 150% of average. The lighter blue is well above average. Now you notice that along and east of the divide here, the heavier snows just haven't come in yet, but the windward mountains, the mountains picking up that Pacific moisture, really doing well. Let's hope this is a trend that continues, especially in the Colorado River Basin in this area here where they really need a good snowpack here. Now I want to talk about that model fail that I talked about, where you got to be really careful with these long-range projections. I show you long-range projections all the time, but I always want to point out the weaknesses in computer modeling when you're trying to use weather to project a forecast that goes out 60, 90, 100, 180 days, as far out as you possibly can run these models, which you can run these models out decades if you want to. This was the forecast from the Climate Forecast System. Basically, this is a climate model that runs every day. In fact, it runs multiple times a day, and it tries to predict weather forecasts months in advance. Now, what's interesting is this model run was made between the data collected between October 22nd and October 31st. This is the whole forecast for the month of November for temperature. So you see all that orange and all those reds? At the end of October, it was predicting that November was going to be a warmer than average month. So this model actually was used the data very close in to the forecast time frame. And this is what the forecast is going to look like for the last days of November for the United States. So this is a miserable failure of a climate model. This is why models should not be used as evidence. You always have to be very careful with them. Sometimes they do get it right, and it's the times that they get it right, which always makes you go back and look at them seriously, but you have to be very careful, obviously, when you look at a change like that. When you look at the weather pattern, by late in the weekend and early next week, we do go to a more milder Pacific flow. So we do see this cold sticking through Saturday. By Sunday into Monday of next week, into the beginning of Thanksgiving week, the cold will be shifting to the eastern side of the nation. And we'll see some temperatures that aren't going to necessarily be really warm, but they are going to moderate at least closer to average as we get into the beginnings of Thanksgiving week. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.